to the Monday, January 24th, Maplewood City Council meeting. You know, this is the kind of night when I think we're all probably glad that we're doing this virtually. I saw in the weather report that tomorrow morning when we all wake up, it's going to be -11. And I also checked on the infection rate for COVID today, and the numbers, and remember, we went virtual when the numbers hit 50 and we saw a pattern, 50 infections per 100,000. The current rate is 198 per 100,000, which means that the infection rate is severe. So it's very nice that we have this virtual option. So, and especially because it's cold and we're in a pandemic. But I did want to brighten everyone's thoughts tonight a little bit with some of the progress and the things that are happening in the city. I drove by the fire station this morning. It was still rather dark outside. Our new fire station at County Road C in Hazelwood. This is the first time that I've really paid attention and saw that the lights are on inside. They're actually working in the building. And it was really fun to see on a dark morning to see those lights, and people were already working on the building. And as Chief Mondor has indicated in the past, we're looking at cutting the ribbon there in June. So that's really exciting, but the lights are on. And I also drove by the Cassia Maplewood Senior Care facility that is being built at County Road C and Hazelwood. And boy, it is remarkable how large and how far they have gotten on that building. And there were some lights on in there as well. So that was really exciting. Another thing too, we just learned recently that the old vacant Toys R Us building over by the mall is not going to be vacant much longer. Becker Furniture has purchased that property and is going to be moving into town, which gives us another really nice option, and will fill that vacant property near the mall. So that's really rather exciting too. So some good things are happening. And I think once we get through some of this colder weather, we're going to see more of that as we move towards spring and some of these other projects that we get going as well. So welcome everyone to tonight. Let's start with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Sint, would you please take our roll call for tonight's meeting?
Councilmember Cave.
Here.
Councilmember Juniman.
Here.
Councilmember Knutson.
Here.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Here.
Mayor Abrams.
Here as well. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion approval.
Second.
Moved by Cave, seconded by Juniman, the motion to approve the agenda for tonight. Is there any additions or further discussion?
Mayor?
Councilmember Juniman.
Yes, I have one council presentation. Fire hydrants.
Okay. And I am going to give an update on the crime reduction leadership invitation I received from John Choi. I'll add that as well. Anyone else? All right, then let's go to a vote. Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Cave.
Aye.
And Councilmember Villavicencio.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. The agenda is approved. Let's move to our minutes. Is there a motion?
I move approval of the minutes for the Maplewood City Council meeting, of January 10th.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve the minutes of the January 10th City Council meeting minutes. Further discussion, I have actually a correction. I don't know if anyone else caught it, but under our appointments, under the Rush Line corridor, I believe that Councilmember Cave and my name were actually reversed. I've never been the designated representative on the Rush Line. I have served as the alternate, but under the one that's posted in our council packet, it says that I'm the Rush Line representative, and I'm not. Councilmember Cave, do you concur with that?
Yes. What was there something with the Rush Line being changed to the purple line?
I'm trying to
I
look
thought
at the,
I thought the Rush Line wasn't there anymore. I thought, I could be wrong, but I
okay,
thought it was changed to the purple line. So we might want to look at that.
Yes. the
okay,
Rush
let's
line
look at
was,
that.
Changed to the purple line.
Right,
Okay.
and the new designees for that is called something different. The Purple Line Corridor, CMC.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I see your hand raised, Ms. Sint, and I think we've got it figured out. That, yeah, it is, it's different, and I think we left the Rush Line corridor on there because we aren't sure if that is ever going to meet again. I don't believe that it is, because it's now transferred over to the Met Council. Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I just found another one, a typo. On page 2, under St. John's Hospital interview, it should say with site administrator of St. John's Hospital.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, then I think with that, just that clarification from Councilmember Juniman, I think we're good. Let's go to a vote. Councilmember Juniman,
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson,
Aye.
Councilmember Cave,
Aye.
and Councilmember Villavicencio.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to.
Mayor, you didn't vote.
Oh, I vote aye as well. Sorry, got to get into the rhythm of this night. It could be that it's so cold outside.
Yes. Our brains are
Yeah.
frozen.
I think so. I kind of feel like that. Okay, appointments and presentations. City Manager Coleman, this is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Abrams, members of the City Council. The council calendar update is just to give you a snapshot of upcoming meetings and the content of those. On February 14th, we will be talking about our strategic priorities revisions. And if you remember right, we talked about this back in October. And Lois Knutson has been meeting with staff, and the management team will be discussing this tomorrow to prepare for that meeting, to give you some options to include a new strategic priority that has to do with our natural environment. And so we will be bringing that back to you on the 14th at a workshop. And then we will also give the last year's fourth quarter updates at the council meeting. As of now, we don't have anything scheduled for a workshop for February 28th, but that could change as things develop over the next few days and weeks. With regard to the items that are under review by staff at your direction, we are continuing to work on the parking space requirement review, and that is still taking time, working through our consultants and planning staff on that. The goats and buckthorn removal, I had Audra write a report for you related to that in Friday's FYI. But if you missed that, it looks like we do have a couple of strong possibilities for grant funding through Great River Greening, which has been a really good partner with us over the years. One in particular is their pollinator grant, which we think we can tie to some campus improvements to get rid of buckthorn and then in its place plant other things that might attract pollinators. That will also involve the overall campus in general. So that's really promising, and stay tuned. We'll certainly keep you updated on that. The third item is to schedule a meeting with Ramsey County regarding the HRA levy program and how those funds are being set up now. Jeff Thompson is working on asking Carrie Collins to come speak to the council on that. And we will also be inviting Commissioner Reinhardt to attend as well. So with that, Mayor, that's the update. I'd be happy to take any questions or hear your concerns or things that you would like staff to look into on your behalf.
Thank you, City Manager Coleman. Councilmember Juniman, any questions?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Knutson?
No, thanks.
Councilmember Cave?
No, thanks.
Councilmember Villavicencio?
No, thank you.
Okay. Then moving on, we have two council presentations. Councilmember Juniman, you're first.
Well, it's that season and that time of year again for the public service announcement about snow and fire hydrants. If you are lucky enough to have a fire hydrant somewhere in your yard near the curb, as you know, when the snowplow goes by, sometimes it leaves a little pile of snow in front of the hydrant. So it's always a nice thing and a good thing, and it's also probably to your benefit and your neighbors if you would shovel out around the hydrant. So if there is a need to use it, they don't have to deal with tripping in their way into the hydrant to use it. So please shovel out around your fire hydrants.
Thank you for that reminder. And I just wanted to update my fellow council members. Last meeting on January 10th, I talked about attending the Regional Council of Mayors meeting, the special meeting on the increase in crime and the panel presentation that we had. And after that meeting, John Choi reached out to me and invited me to join the crime reduction leadership team that meets monthly. And our first meeting is going to be I believe it's the first week of February, the meeting that I'm going to join in on. So I will report back to you with what I hear and what I learn. Just a little follow up on that. Okay, moving on. We have a resolution declaring a climate emergency. Ms. Finwell, this is your presentation. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. So tonight we'll be looking at a climate emergency resolution. Maplewood has been participating in the Minnesota Climate Caucus, which is a nonpartisan coalition of Minnesota cities that are focused on the adverse impact climate change has on the economic well-being and quality of life in our cities. This caucus is facilitated by the Great Plains Institute. So through the caucus work, 16 Minnesota cities are declaring a climate emergency, with Maplewood being included, and calling for immediate action at all levels of government to address the climate crisis. So the intent of this climate emergency is to send a message to state and federal elected officials that local governments statewide are taking steps to address climate change and are requesting increased legislative and financial support. And as you are aware, Maplewood has adopted several energy and climate goals to address climate change. In 2021, the City Council adopted the Climate Adaptation Plan, which is a comprehensive roadmap that outlines the specific strategic strategies and actions that Maplewood will implement to build resilience to related climate impacts. And of course, our 2040 Comprehensive Plan, which outlines climate and energy goals. So with that, we're joining other cities, the likes of St. Louis Park, Bloomington, Columbia Heights, Eden Prairie, Edina, Golden Valley, Grand Marais, Grand Rapids, Lauderdale, Moorhead, Northfield, Red Wing, Robbinsdale, Rochester, and St. Paul. And you may be aware that there was some press coverage on the collective climate emergency declarations, including a January 19th Star Tribune article and a January 20 NPR article as well. So the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission did review this climate emergency resolution and did recommend approval at their with that, I stand for questions and hope that you will pass the resolution identifying a climate emergency as we move forward with our climate goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Finwall. Let's see if there are any council questions or discussion. Councilmember Juniman.
And no, but I thank Sean for being the one that's kind of our point person with this organization so that we're up to snuff on what we need to be doing. And there is certainly power in numbers. So I'm glad that we are becoming part of this group. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Knudsen.
Yes, Sean, I'm remembering not too long ago, there was a report that really described in detail some of the impact that in the local Maplewood community. Am I remembering that correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Finwall.
Councilmember Knudsen, are you referring to an article or a report that refers to some impacts in Maplewood?
Yeah, that struck me as, for doubters and stuff like that, it really was a strong indication that this is important right at your own feet in your own yard.
Absolutely, yes.
Very,
so I
very
think as
impactful.
part of our climate adaptation plan,
Right.
we some very thorough background information on our climate vulnerabilities here in Maplewood.
Yep.
We have a lot of underrepresented individuals, who would be impacted.
Ms. Finwald, you're cutting in and out. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
speaking on a headset, but sometimes it's really hard to hear you.
Yeah.
Do you have the ability to change however you're transmitting?
I apologize for that. I'll just leave it as our climate adaptation plan outlines many of those vulnerabilities.
That's where I recall seeing it. And some of them
Yes.
were pretty significant in terms of water and flooding. And
Yep.
yeah, that was pretty significant as to the
Yeah.
impact on our city directly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's what I recall. Thank you.
Councilmember Cave,
No questions.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
I don't have any questions. I just, thank everybody here for all the work that's been going on in, about the environment, especially you, Councilmember Juniman. All the hard work that Maplewood has done to make sure that we do have a climate change plan. I'm just so thankful that I get to be in a city that cares about the environment, because it's a really important thing that affects us all.
Thank you. Okay, council members, would someone like to make the motion?
I move the resolution declaring a climate emergency in Maplewood.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knudsen, the motion to approve a resolution declaring a climate emergency. Is there any further discussion?
Nothing.
Hearing
Mayor,
none. Councilmember Juniman.
yes, I would just like to point out that there will also be an article in the February Maplewood Living about this. So there's more to come.
Thank you very much for pointing that out. Then let's move to a vote. Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Cave.
Aye.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The motion passes. Moving on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion concerning our consent agenda?
I move consent
motion.
agenda 1 through 13.
Second.
Sorry, Rebecca.
No, you're fine. You quit.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve consent agenda items G1 through 13. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to highlight number 10. Speaking of climate.
Okay. Any other highlights or questions? Okay, then number 10, Metro CRT's seed grant for the Clean Energy for All project. Ms. Finwell, is this yours?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of council. So the city of Maplewood applied for a Metro seed grant for the Clean Energy for All project. And we originally had requested $5,000 for this grant opportunity, but were awarded $1,000, which will fund a study to determine some innovative approaches to reducing energy burden for residents that live in our manufactured homes, as well as working with our partners. The Center for Energy Environment and CUB is their acronym. We'll do some home energy squad visits, and CUB looks at the energy bills and helps people understand them and learn ways to reduce energy. So that'll be a really fun and also beneficial program that will be rolling out this summer as part of our outreach opportunity. It also addresses one of our climate adaptation strategies, which is to help historically underserved residents with their energy burden as well.
Okay, thank you.
Hooray for us.
Absolutely. All right, it's been moved and seconded, the consent agenda. And number 10 was highlighted. Let's move to a vote. Excuse me, Councilmember Juniman,
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson,
Aye.
Councilmember Cave,
Aye.
Councilmember Villavicencio,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. The consent agenda passes. Tonight, we have no public hearings. We have no unfinished business. Let's move on to new business. We have an administrative hearing concerning a tobacco compliance check failure. Ms. Sint, this is your agenda item. Do you want to take over, please, on this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight we have an administrative hearing regarding the tobacco compliance failure. So all businesses, as way of history, that hold a tobacco product license are responsible to restrict the sale of tobacco to anyone under 21, and this is checked annually as required in city code and state statute by the licensing authority by having underage persons attempt to purchase a tobacco product with their own ID. If during the compliance check, a purchase is unsuccessful, the business passes the compliance check and no further action is required. However, if during the compliance check, a sale is made to an underage person, the business is deemed to have failed the check. They've committed a violation. The employee who sold the product is issued a citation, and the license holder is required to pay a penalty based on the penalty structure set by statute mirrored in city code. The license holder at this point can either pay the penalty or request to appeal the alleged violation to city council. And the appeal is regarding the violation itself, not about negotiating the amount of the penalty. In October of 2021, the Maplewood Police Department conducted the annual unannounced tobacco compliance checks of the 40 businesses which hold tobacco licenses with Maplewood. Of these checks, there were 7 failures. 6 have paid their penalties, and 1, Fleming's Auto Service, has requested a hearing, which is what we are doing tonight. So the City Council is to hear the licensee's appeal, consider the incident report, and decide if a violation occurred. The City Council cannot adjust the penalty if the decision is that a violation did occur. So specific to this issue, on October 22nd of 2021, the Maplewood Police Department conducted an appliance check at Fleming's Auto Service, also known as Minico Gas Station, at 2271, White Bear Avenue North. The incident report shows the result of the compliance check was a sale of cigarettes to an underage person using their own ID. And the specifics of the transaction were provided in your packet, and they can be found on packet page 231. And just as a clarification there, a sale to an underage person is considered a violation of city code and state statute. As this was the second violation within 36 months at this location, the city assessed the business a penalty of $600 in accordance with the state statute and city code. And the licensee, Katie Fleming, has chosen not to pay the penalty at this point, but rather has requested a hearing before the council. So unless anyone has questions, Mayor, I would suggest that you allow Ms. Fleming to present her appeal at this point. And then after hearing her comments, consider her comments along with the other information that you have and determine if there was a violation or not on October 22nd. And packet page 229 shows the possible 2 motions that council can make based on their decision. And with that, I can stand for any questions, or you can have Ms. Fleming speak.
Thank you, Ms. Sen. Let's see if the council has any questions for you first, and then we will bring on Ms. Fleming. Any questions, Councilmember Juniman?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Knudsen?
No questions.
Councilmember Cave?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Villavicencio?
None.
Okay, then Ms. Fleming, Mr. Folds, can you bring Ms. Fleming forward so that she can speak to the council?
Mayor and Council, yes, I've allowed the caller to speak, and it looks like they have unmuted their phone.
Okay. Good evening, Ms. Fleming, and welcome to the council meeting.
Hello, thank you.
The floor is yours.
So I am not really here to dispute the fact that Samantha, who we refer to as Sam, sold cigarettes to a 20-year-old minor. I'm here to help you understand more about the reasons why she did that. I sent an email to the mayor and the city council and the director of public safety on December 9th. I don't know if I should read that email again, or I mean, it kind of sums up what I want to discuss. I don't know if everybody had an opportunity to read that.
Why don't you summarize it for us?
Okay, so if we start, I'm just gonna read like the 3rd paragraph. So no disrespect to our police department, as I have been very vocal of my support of them, but explain to me how I am supposed to enforce the law when the police are not even allowed to. Certainly I've been listening to the struggle small businesses are facing to hire and keep employees, especially a cashier at my gas station on White Bear Avenue. The amount of stress placed on my staff since George Floyd's death has been incomprehensible. They hesitate to confront or upset anyone out of fear of retaliation. They see it time and again. I recently sent a letter to the mayor and police chief stating that my managers, who are married and have been with me for over 25 years, are leaving my business because they fear for their safety. My cashiers have been verbally disrespected, been called racist, had full bottles of Gatorade and fountain pops thrown at them, tolerated criminals just walking out the door with armfuls while shoplifting, knowing that there are no consequences. We have called police out of fear of bodily harm and watched them stand by while teens and adults scream in their faces, calling them names, and scream the F word, 12 at them, again, knowing there will be no consequences. I recently worked an evening shift with my staff. After trying to handle a situation in which an intoxicated Black woman was attempting to physically assault me, I called 911. My staff, now that includes Sam, who I was working with, and I watched as this woman physically pushed a female police officer over and over again with no consequences. Yet the expectation is that a gas station cashier is supposed to enforce the law. We have experienced shots fired in our parking lot, vehicles stolen at gunpoint, break-ins through windows in our auto repair shop, property damage estimating at over $18,000, and the list goes on. Yet the expectation is that my cashiers are supposed to confront people and uphold the law. That's the most important part. It goes on to add that we have had consistent and constant issues with the residents of Emma's Place, and notably the children who are now teenagers. They last summer were marching up and down the streets carrying signs that say cops kill kids. I mean, you have to understand somewhat the hesitancy to confront people. Sam did ask for an ID. I just feel like with the events taking place, especially on White Bear Avenue in that business section, that she did her job at that point, and it wasn't up to her to confront that person and tell them that she was not going to do that. You just don't know what's going to happen to you nowadays there. And as a small business owner, it upsets me that tobacco compliance checks are front and center right now. I don't know why. It just seems like poor timing, and that with the pandemic, and I mean, these are employees that have been frontline workers through all of this. Sam could have quit and filed unemployment and got $600 a week in cash, more than she was getting from us. And she's just been a hardworking young woman. And I just feel that it was an unjust action. And I just feel like it's a direct assault towards small business.
Thank you, Ms. Fleming. Let's see if council members have any questions. And then after that, I'm going to ask for Chief Beardeman to weigh in on some of the criminal aspects that you referred to in your presentation. Councilmember Juniman.
I don't have a question for her, but there is a section in our report on this incident. And just to answer what one of the things she has basically asked, but as I understand this, the law says the city shall conduct compliance checks at least once a year. So I don't think it's our option not to. Not that I've heard anyway.
Okay.
Even the pandemic. So if the chief knows that something that I don't know about that, I would appreciate knowing. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe I can lend a little bit of background here. Ms. Fleming has participated in meetings with myself and the other business owners, with our police department, with the chair of Emma's Place, with the executive director of Emma's Place, to talk about some of the criminal activity. And I will acknowledge that it is incredibly frustrating and pervasive. And we continue to have this dialogue and continue to look for solutions. And one of the solutions that will be coming up is another meeting with Emma's Place and with the business owners in the early spring, like maybe April, to come up with a very clear plan on what's going to happen once school is out, to make sure that we don't have these kinds of criminal activities that are happening at our businesses. So that's coming, but that's a little bit of background. And I certainly appreciate Ms. Fleming's frustration with what to do. And this just is another indicator of the increase in crime that we have been talking about here at the council. So yeah. But that's just a little bit background. But I am very sympathetic to Ms. Fleming's dilemma in how to deal with this, that it is incredibly frustrating and places a real serious challenge for her business. Mr. Knudsen, Councilmember Knudsen, do you have any questions?
Yes, Mayor, I agree with it. It's very concerning what Ms. Fleming is talking about. The one question I have, though, is did this 20-year-old present a threat to the cashier?
How are they to
Ms. Fleming?
who is going to present a threat?
Well, I mean, you described an ambient condition of fear, and I just wondering if this individual had any kind of suggestion that she should be concerned, that he either wouldn't pay or become belligerent or anything like that.
They're just not confronting people. They're not. So she asked for an ID. She was presented one, and they're just not confronting people.
Oh, but there's no indication that this young man was going to be a problem. There's no known other than he was underage.
There was no, you're exactly right. She didn't know.
Yeah.
Just like with the people that do present a problem, oftentimes you don't know until it's already a problem.
Question answered. Thank you.
Councilmember Cave.
I don't know how many questions I have at this time. I do have a lot of concerns with business owners and the fact that there seems to be two things going on here. We have police that do have compliance checks, and I back the police completely with being able to do their job. And on the other hand, it sounds like we have a business situation where there is a lot of serious, just a lot of serious conditions going on with our local businesses that needs to stop. So I really applaud Ms. Fleming and, the mayor having all these groups in the neighborhoods. It seems like, spring's right around the corner and kids are going to be out of school. They already are with online. North has an option of even going to school. And, so there seems to be two problems here on my plate. Yeah. There's, the situation with the compliance, but there's also a bigger problem here. It's the picture of protecting our community, our businesses. And I think that's something we need to look at as a second piece to this. And that's just my situation I'm thinking right now.
Thank you. Councilmember Villavicencio.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Chief Bearderman, I said that I was going to ask you to weigh in. I have, I guess, a little concern about hearing that one of our female police officers was pushed and shoved. And I'd like to know what happened with that, because that is also concerning to me. Chief Bearderman, can you weigh in on some of this that we're talking about, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. As far as the female being pushed, I'd have to look through the records. I'm not aware, can recall that specific instance. I don't disbelieve that it happened. I think Ms. Fleming has a front row seat to the disrespect that our officers have seen over the last several years, pre George Floyd and post George Floyd. And so she's got a front row seat. I know that I appreciate Ms. Fleming's partnership with us. She's worked hard as one of the business owners near Emma's Place, that a lot of them just kind of think of it as the cost of doing business and look the other way, but she's really partnering with us. I've received several emails over the last year or so with showing her support and of the police department, but her frustration with the situation. So I think it's one of those things where, much like her staff doesn't want to often escalate or push an issue, the police officers over the last several years have really taken that extra step to not further, cause issues. If there's a juvenile now, if they're getting pushed, clearly that's something where they're going to take action on that. So again, I'm not aware of that specific situation, but I am sympathetic to some of the things she's mentioning. I know that, Madam Mayor, I tip of the cap to you as far as your partnership with trying to help with Emma's Place and partnering with our officers who are directly related to dealing with Emma's Place on a daily basis and partnering with them. But again, I'm sympathetic to Ms. Fleming's appeal. Just reading through the report, again, to speak to Councilmember Knutsen's comments, there was no direct threat. It says that the female thought the decoy was 21. But again, it's one of those things where we really need our people are selling. We really can't have people selling to underage parties. But again, I understand why they might not want to confront people as well. So I hope that answers your question, Mayor.
Thank you very much for that. That helps. Maybe for some other context, the reason that I have gotten so involved in this and spoken out about the increase in crime and how important it is to do something about it, I've actually seen videotapes from several of our business owners in that area of young juveniles threatening staff that work at some of the businesses. And that is a huge concern for me. Obviously, a lot of these businesses are mom and pop businesses, and, people are trying to provide jobs and make a living for their family, and they are being subjected to being sworn at, having things thrown at them. Two of the managers at the local businesses have shown me videotapes of kids racing through their business as they're closing on bikes, threatening that they're going to come back with a gun, threatening verbally the staff. And so I am very sympathetic about this. And as an indication of that, my opinion on this is that this is a really unusual circumstance. We have a business who's trying to keep staff, and they never know when they're going to be threatened, what is going to happen, and we're trying to intervene and make sure that our businesses can be successful. Our businesses are taxpayers as well, and they should not be subjected to this type of harassment, and their employees should not be subject to this type of harassment. So, council members, I am going to move forward and make a motion to strike the tobacco compliance check failure record under these most unique circumstances. We are trying everything we can to try to find partnerships, to come alongside, to hold people accountable, because we want our businesses to succeed. We want Emma's Place to succeed. But this increase in crime is just not acceptable. And so under these very, very unique circumstances, and it's certainly not, in my estimation, setting a precedent, but this has been a very unusual year for Ms. Fleming's business. There was a vehicle that was stolen there. She outlined for you some of the problems that they have had, and all they're trying to do is run a business, and that just shouldn't happen. So that the staff is frightened, and I'd like to show some support for the staff under these unusual circumstances. But like I said, this is not precedent setting, and it would certainly not make way for this to happen again, because staff does need to, do the right thing. We don't want tobacco in the hands of someone who is underage. But under these most unique circumstances, I will make that motion to strike the tobacco compliance check failure record for Fleming's Auto Service.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. There has been a motion by myself, seconded by Councilmember Cave. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor?
Councilmember Juniman.
If I recall, Ms. Sint said there were 7 failures, I believe.
Not at that place.
No.
Oh.
I mean, at the time that this was done. Have any of the others brought any of this up? Because I do know one of the other failures has had some issues. They've had a burglary. They've had a clerk taken on, shall we say. So did anyone else that failed this time bring any of this to our attention? Or did they just pay their fines?
Ms. Sint, do you have that information?
So my information that I have is that this was the only one that was brought to my attention or that contacted me directly.
Okay.
Everyone else did pay.
Mm-hmm. My concern.
Mayor, may I comment? I did have interaction with one of the people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, City Manager Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Juniman. There was one other business owner who came into my office to show me a videotape of the exchange that he had at his store, but he didn't really request a hearing, and he did pay the fine. I don't think it was the same kind of situation with that store as it was with Ms. Fleming's, but if you want more detail, I could certainly provide that for you.
The thing about Ms. Fleming's store is that this has been pretty pervasive, and it has happened way too frequently. That's part of my issue. Ms. Juniman, or Councilmember Juniman?
I'm not debating that at all. And I think it's terrible what's happening to her and the people who work for her. And that's the problem. This is basically two separate issues. My concern is that the others once they learn of this, are they going to come to us and say, and if they have a backup videotape or whatever, how are we going to handle that? I'm not trying to make this unimportant. I'm trying to make it.
Ms. Sint, is there a time period in terms of appealing these?
Mayor and council, as this whole piece with the appeal is new since the upgrade to the 21. This was part of what the legislature put into place. They did not give any time frame that we have to go by. I guess I don't know if Mr. Beatty would have anything more to say on that. I think
all I'm saying is, how are we prepared to handle it if someone else?
Sure. Let's have Mr. Beatty weigh in.
Look, you know, I just want.
Let's have Mr. Beatty weigh in.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I'm not aware of any time frame that is applicable here. So I think the point that Councilmember Juneman is raising is valid, and that is that if there's no time limit, some of the other 6 folks could, I suppose, retroactively appeal and ask you to refund the fine that they paid. And so I think what she's saying is you need to be prepared to address that if it occurs.
Thank you. That is what I'm saying.
Okay. Thank you very much. And from my perspective, I am prepared. I think Ms. Fleming's situation, she has been very candid and tried very hard to work with our police department. She was present at the meeting that I had with Emma's Place last, I believe it was in June, the end of June. And so she has been, I think, really she's made numerous efforts to try to work to resolve this.
I understand that part, and I give her great credit for that.
Sure.
I'm just, what Mr. Beatty just said is what my concern is, and I don't
understand, Kathleen. I just have not heard from the other 6 businesses. Okay. I don't know, but
if
certainly,
we would, that's why I asked if we would, how we would handle it. That's my only concern.
Sure.
And the other piece of this is, this is not recent, and this is in Miss Fleming's defense. I don't know how we solve the issue with the troubled people who are coming from Emma's Place, but somehow we need to solve it, because it isn't fair to other people who happen to live there who don't behave that way. And it certainly isn't fair to people like Miss Fleming that's what they're doing. So I don't know where we go with this, but at some point, I think we need to hold the, I don't know what her executive director, whatever the heck her title is over there, feet to the flame. Because when they first moved in, there was a plan for kids to be busy, to be going to school, to be doing what they're supposed to do, to be directed by parents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if that's not happening, it kind of explains why this is happening to the businesses. So we need to look into that, I think.
Agreed. Agreed.
Thanks.
Okay. So we've had a motion, we've had a second, and we're on discussion. Councilmember Knutson. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'm really torn by this. I think Ms. Fleming has really presented a very good concern and it got me on board. I'm willing to do anything to help out in this situation. I agree with, I think I ran a treatment center for delinquent boys for 5 years. And I can assure you that getting to their behavior and dealing with it immediately is the only hope in the long run of getting kids to go on a straighter path. So whatever it takes to get them to behave respectfully and all that is what really needs to be done. Same with respect for police. Yeah. I'm just having trouble tying this with this young man presenting himself in a situation under surveillance that says that the rule is you're not to sell to underage. So I'm just having trouble with that. I can't see that in tonight's discussion that $600 is going to make a difference. Ms. Fleming has effectively made her case as far as I'm concerned, but I just don't tie it to the violation.
Don't
That's
either.
what I'm feeling
Okay.
right now. We'll see how it goes for the vote.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Cave.
I don't think I have any more questions. Just, just one more comment about I'm 100%, we back up the public safety and their compliance checks are exactly what our city has asked for. This is a particular situation, and I pull it out as a situation, and we have the right to do that. And that's, the motion in the second has that, and I just want to let that be known that it's a specific case, and that's what I'm moving forward.
Thank you, Councilmember Cave. Councilmember Villavicencio.
I don't have any other questions other than to say, I'm in favor of supporting the compliance the same way I would support the compliance of making sure that we don't sell alcohol to minors. And so that's kind of where I'm at with that. I also too feel the same way that everybody else does in this meeting. There's a larger issue here, but I don't think the connection is directly tied to the fine per se.
Okay, then let's go to a vote. Councilmember Juniman.
No.
Councilmember Knudsen.
No.
Councilmember Cave.
Aye.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
No.
And I vote no, or excuse me, I vote in favor of the motion, to strike the tobacco compliance check. So the motion fails. Mr. Beatty, do we need to take another motion?
Yes.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Council, I would recommend that somebody make a contrary motion.
Okay, thank you. Would someone make that motion?
I move to require Fleming's Auto Service, White Bear Avenue North, to pay the mandatory fine of $600 within 30 days due to tobacco compliance check failure on October 22nd, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Knudsen, seconded by Juniman, the motion to require Fleming's Auto Service to pay the mandatory fine of $600 within 30 days due to a tobacco compliance check failure. Any further discussion?
Mayor?
Councilmember Juniman.
Yes, thank you. Having taken this action and what we're based on, what I know Bill and I are based on, and I think probably Nikki's in the same camp, trying to keep these two issues separate as much as we can, but something could happen again. I don't know how we would do this, but I think we should make some attempt to not only make things get better, because that could take a little while, but possibly those businesses right around, easy for me to say, right along that area, particularly Ms. Fleming's, if we can somehow exempt them from being checked for these things in the next, 6 months or whatever, so that we don't run into this again until we get a little better handle on how we're going to keep them safe.
Chief Beardeman, do you want to weigh in on that?
If the council wishes that we don't do compliance checks, we wouldn't do another one for another year. They're going to be yearly,
Okay.
so they
Okay,
wouldn't
so
come in the next 6 months
we
like
can
we have.
evaluate that. Yeah, we can evaluate that before then, I guess. Okay, but I think we need to keep a real close eye on this so we don't get into this. And only we can probably are the ones that can try and help remedy this situation.
Thank you. Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Beatty.
Yes, let me just follow up on the police chief's comments. I think there is some discretion as to how soon a compliance check occurs, but please remember that both the statute and city ordinances require annual checks, and both the statute and the ordinance requires that there be a fine if there's a violation. So those are both statutory and ordinance requirements.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beatty. Okay, then let's see. We've had a motion and a second. Let's take a vote. Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Cave.
No.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Aye.
And I vote no as well. That motion does pass. Thank you for the discussion, council members. And we will continue to work on this. And Chief Beardeman, I'm interested in learning more about this pushing of a female officer and how anyone, how we responded to that, because that's clearly not okay. And it's not safe for our officers. So if you could follow up on that for us, that would be much appreciated.
And I do want to amp up how we solve the Emma's Place issue. I don't want to, we can just dance around and be nice for so long, and then we have to get serious.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. I think we're all on board on this. Let's have a discussion.
Could I suggest perhaps a workshop coming up?
Let's go through this, and that way we can all hear everyone at, with their own presentations. Councilmember Juniman, what did you want to? Let's start with you. We'll do our round robin.
I don't know, and maybe we have public safety lead the way. I don't know, but if I don't also want to make them the bad guys. Somehow we have to amp up how we approach the people at Emma's Place, because what they basically have advertised themselves as in the past is not what they're doing now. And I'm sorry, but I do not want to be someone who basically allows affordable housing so they can raise delinquents. I hate to be brash, but that's how it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to see us go back to the reason they came to be. So they're rehabbing families, making them functional so they can live on their own and be productive people and young people. And we have got to find a way to do that. And if they don't want to do that, then I guess they want to go somewhere else, in my estimation.
Councilmember Knudsen, you had a suggestion?
Yeah, I just saying, I think Ms. Fleming's done a tremendous service in bringing this forward, and I compliment her. And I guess I can tell you from my experience running a treatment center, I had 50 delinquent boys. Things got out of control for a while. So I went around the community and invited them to a community meeting. I never saw so many headlights in my entire life. Scared the heck out of me. But they were wonderful when the community basically came in and heard my case, heard what we needed to do, and solicit their support. So I'm either thinking of a workshop for us or some method to reach out to these folks with good suggestions, not so much harsh stuff, harsh as we have to be, but just some random thoughts. I want to be involved. So
thank you. Councilmember Cave, any other further thoughts on this?
Yes, I agree with my council members. The one thing I'd like to push is they've already been met with. So I think it's time to do a little bit what Kathy says and push them a little bit harder. If we're going to have a workshop, they're going to come to it prepared with what they're going to do, because they know this has been going on. This isn't the first time they've heard it. So if they're going to come to the table, I want solutions at the table. So if they come, they have to bring solutions.
Okay, Councilmember Villavicencio.
I'm with you.
Am I able
Yeah,
to add something at all?
just to add to what Councilmember Cave was going to say, and maybe if this future meeting happens, we could send them a letter with what we expect for them to have coming to the meeting.
How about if I'll make a suggestion, because I was going to be pulling together our police department, the chair and executive director from Emma's Place, and our business owners in early spring to talk about what their plan is. I do know that Emma's Place has been looking at increasing their staffing. They have been in kind of a reorganization status. And so I will invite them, in addition to this meeting with our business owners, to the city council for a workshop to meet with us about this, because they can share the same information with the business owners with our council. Does
Mayor?
that sound like a good solution to everyone?
Mayor?
Yep.
Yes,
This is
Councilmember
Ms.
Cave.
Just one thing, can we do it at the second meeting in February, since we don't have a workshop? Because I think if this goes on any longer, it just, for business owners, and I understand them, and I have friends in the neighborhood, this just goes on and on and on. And I know it doesn't seem like a lot for us to do it in a couple of months, But as a business owner, every day it could be a dangerous situation for them.
I think that's a very good idea. And I think what we can do is have a presentation by our police department as well concerning the frequency of calls, talk about the ordinances, and then we can ask that Emma's Place come and outline what it is that they're going to do. Does that sound just wait one second. Does that sound amenable to everyone? Let's go through the list again.
Sure.
It's hard when people are talking, trying to talk at the same time. Councilmember Juniman.
Sure, that works. I'd just like to know, in addition to that, besides these two people that are supposedly doing their work over there at Emma's Place, who ultimately is responsible for Emma's Place? I'd like to know that.
They can certainly explain that to us. Councilmember Knudsen,
Sure.
anything else on this?
No, that's good. I like the plan.
Okay. Councilmember Cave.
Great plan. Thank you.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Great plan.
Okay, I will make that approach to the chair and the executive director for the second February meeting for us. City Manager Coleman, did you get that? Did you want to weigh in on that at all?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I understood the direction, and I will work with you and Public Safety Director Beardeman to make sure that we have everything lined up the way you've described this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Great problem solving, council members. I think that this really will be helpful and get things moving a little bit faster. And we really need to address this because this is a very troubling thing in our community. So thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the new business item number 2. We now have 2 road projects. Mr. Love, I'm going to turn this over to you. Road projects must mean spring is coming.
Mayor and council, good evening. Yes, this is like one of our big first steps in our upcoming projects. We have completed the feasibility study for 2 of our proposed projects. Tonight we have our assistant city engineer, John Jarosh, and he's leading projects for us, and he will be giving the presentation tonight. Both John and I will be available for questions afterwards. So with that, John?
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mayor, Council. Can one of you just verify that you can see the presentation for me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. So the first project I'm here to talk to you guys tonight about is the Cope Avenue Street Improvements, City Project 21-06. The extents of this project are shown on the right-hand side of the screen and includes Cope Avenue from English Street on the west over to White Bear Avenue on the east. This project was part of the approved 2022 to 2026 capital improvement plan for construction this year. Cope Avenue in this area totals just over 1 mile in length and has an average pavement condition index rating of 41 out of 100. And that pavement condition index goes from 0 to 100, with 100 being a brand new road, 0 being nothing left. Like I said, this area rated a 41 out of 100. And just for reference, when a street gets below 55 out of 100, that's when we start considering it in poor condition. So this pavement has essentially deteriorated to the point where patching it and regular maintenance is no longer cost effective. This area also has the majority of the concrete curb and gutter that has deteriorated beyond the state of repair. It'll no longer adequately support the edge of new pavement. The Maplewood owned utilities in this project area, so the sanitary sewer and the storm sewer, are generally in good condition with only minor repairs needed to those systems. But St. Paul Regional Water Service has identified that all of the water main beneath Cope Avenue is in need of replacement. And also staff has noticed that there are a number of existing sidewalk segments along the north side of Cope Avenue in this area, but there is a lack of a continuous bicycling and pedestrian facility between English Street and White Bear Avenue. We reached out to the residents in the area in a number of ways. We sent out an informational packet to them back in November of last year. That packet included a project location map, frequently asked questions brochure, information on assessments, as well as an invitation to that first neighborhood meeting. And we did hold that neighborhood meeting on November 22nd. And at that meeting, staff gave a presentation to the residents and property owners, and then we followed that up with a question and answer session. We presented on the scope of the project, the general project timeline, how the project improvements would be funded, what they would cost, general information on assessments, as well as how residents would be communicated with during the public improvement process. We also gave them a chance to ask any questions that they might have and give us some feedback, which is one of the most important parts of those neighborhood meetings. Some of the concerns residents brought up were impacts to their properties from the construction project, access to their property during construction, some concerns with the lack of lighting in certain areas along Cope Avenue, as well as concerns with the pavement condition. And they did mention a number of times the need for parking, especially in the residential section of Cope Avenue to the west of Hazelwood Street. They did note that parking was needed in that area, at least on the one side of the street. And a number of the residents in attendance noted concerns with speeding up and down the corridor. Just to note that if this project progresses, we will hold some additional neighborhood meetings as we move through the process. So what we're looking at doing as part of this project is a reclamation or grinding up of the existing street pavement, grinding that up and pulverizing it and creating a new stable aggregate base for the roadway. On top of that, we'd install at least 2 new layers of asphalt pavement. And on this project, we'd look at replacing all of the concrete curb and gutter. So between the deteriorated concrete curb and gutter and that curb and gutter that would have to come out in order to replace the water main, we're looking at just a whole scale replacement of the curb and gutter in the corridor. We'd also look at some minor repairs to the storm sewer system, as well as some sanitary sewer and storm sewer manhole lid adjustments. And then the replacement of the cast iron water main will be done throughout the project area by St. Paul Regional Water Service. And then we are looking at continuing and extending that sidewalk along the entire north side to make that full connection from English Street over to White Bear Avenue. And then as part of the feasibility process, staff did see an opportunity here for reconfiguring the roadway to better fit the current and future traffic demands, along with improving pedestrian and bicyclist safety and access, reducing unnecessary impervious surfaces, as well as the ability to slow and improve traffic safety along the corridor. So in order to do this and accomplish these goals, we consulted with our partners, our traffic engineers over at SRF Consulting Group to really analyze the corridor and seek ways that we could achieve those goals. So what we came up with and what we included in the feasibility study is some street layout reconfigurations that I'm going to go through here now in these next few slides. So what you're looking at on the screen now is a cross section of the roadway, and we're going to start down on the west end. So this slide represents Cope Avenue in that portion from Birmingham Street to Hazelwood Street. So this is really the residential portion of Cope Avenue. The blue dashed lines on the screen represent the existing edges of the street, so the existing curb lines that are out there. So what we're looking at doing in this area is reducing that street width by 5 feet. So we're taking it down from 37 feet down to 32 feet wide, and we're going to take that 5 feet entirely off the north side. And what that'll do is allow us, it'll minimize the impact of that sidewalk on the north side of the road and minimize that impact into those residential boulevards, hopefully allowing us to save the trees in the area and really minimize the impact up into the people's yards. And then when we're looking out in the street area, we're looking at maintaining an 8-foot wide parking lane in that area. That was, like I said, one of the priorities of residents in this area was keeping the ability to park on the street, at least on that north side. And then that parking lane could also be used when there's no vehicles there as a shared use type shoulder for bicyclists and pedestrians. And then moving over into the driving lanes, we're looking at maintaining 2 through drive lanes, one in each direction, obviously. Existing driving lanes are on the order of 12 to 13 feet wide. We're looking at reducing those down to 11 feet. And what that'll do is it'll aid in traffic calming and reducing speeds in the area, which was one of the concerns that the residents brought up during those neighborhood meetings. So now we'll move a little bit to the east. So now we're looking at Hazelwood Street. It says to Knucklehead Lake, but this is essentially Hazelwood Street, or Cope Avenue from Hazelwood Street, I should say, over to where the commercial businesses and multifamily properties start. So this is in that Knucklehead Lake region of Cope Avenue. So existing, this area is again, this is 52 feet wide. Currently, it's represented by those blue lines on the screen. 52 feet wide. We're looking at taking that down to 32 feet in width for the roadway. So pulling 20 feet out of that street section. That will allow us to accommodate that sidewalk on the north side again, but it'll also allow us to have in the street section 2 5-foot, it's shown as a buffer on this slide, but there'll be 2 5-foot shared use lanes that can be used for bicyclists, pedestrians, scooters, what have you, one on each side of the street, and then maintaining the 2 through lanes of traffic, again at that 11-foot width to aid in traffic calming and slowing those vehicles down. So a huge reduction in street width here, a huge reduction in impervious surfaces and runoff generated during storm events. And then moving further to the west, so this is essentially the commercial area of the project. So this is the portion of Cope Avenue where you have City and County Credit Union, Strauss Skates, Chipotle, McDonald's, the dental office, and some multifamily properties on that south side. In this area, we knew we couldn't take as much out of here. We needed to maintain the ability to turn in and out of these businesses and properties freely. So we didn't want to restrict any access. So in this area, we're looking at taking the roadway from 52 feet wide down to 44 feet wide. So essentially pulling 8 feet out, and we're pulling that 4 feet off each side to achieve that 8-foot reduction. The big thing in this section is we're looking at having a 12-foot continuous center left-hand turn lane to maintain good access to all the properties in the area. Then we'd have the 2 11-foot through lanes and maintain those 5-foot shared use shoulders to complete that pedestrian and bicyclist connection from English Street all the way over to White Bear Avenue. So that's what we're looking at doing as far as the street reconfiguration goes. Some of the benefits of the going from 4 lanes down to 3 lanes has a number of benefits. It's been shown to reduce crashes. It results in a smoother flow of traffic through the corridor as well. So instead of having somebody, currently you have the 2 lanes in each direction, if somebody's turning left from one of those lanes, cars will back up behind there and stack up behind there to cause a disruption in the flow of traffic. So in this way, it provides a dedicated left-hand turn lane along the corridor and maintains the smooth flow of traffic in those through lanes. It also represents fewer lanes for pedestrians to have to cross. So if someone wanted to cross the street anywhere along the corridor, there's now only 3 lanes to cross instead of 4. And then that center turn lane also provides somewhat of a refuge island for pedestrians as they cross the street as well. It also simplifies left-hand turns from the numerous driveway entrances along Cope Avenue. So if you're taking a left-hand turn today, you have to cross, at least 2 lanes of traffic to get to your lane you're looking to turn into. With this configuration, it's only 1 through lane and then a continuous left-hand turn. So there's a number of benefits from that. Reducing it down like this also provides that additional space to continue that sidewalk on the north-hand side. Overall, this project is estimated to cost $927,500. It should be noted that this amount is over the capital improvement plan amount, but it is, however, due to additional water main improvements that were not identified during the CIP process. And those additional water main costs would be reimbursed to the city by St. Paul Regional Water Service. All those street reconfigurations and layout reconfigurations I showed on those previous slides, those actually result in a reduced overall cost when compared directly just to a straight pavement replacement that we were originally looking at doing as part of the CIP. And that is due to the significant reduction in street pavement that would happen with these reconfigurations. So the project is proposed to be funded through the sources shown on the screen, assessments to the benefiting properties, the various utility funds, general obligation improvement bonds, as well as a major contribution of over $1 million from St. Paul Regional Water Service. Quick look at the tentative project schedule. We're here tonight to receive that feasibility study and order a public hearing. If we approve that tonight, we will look at holding that second neighborhood meeting the week of February 7th to really bring residents back up to speed on the project before the public hearing and give them an opportunity to once again see what we're talking about as it pertains to street layout reconfigurations. At that public hearing on February 14th, that will be the meeting at which residents could directly address council on the proposed improvements. And then after taking in all that input from the residents, the city council would vote whether or not to order the improvements. Say we move forward at that point, staff will go into a full design phase, and we'd look at sending plans out for bids in the March timeframe and look at bringing those bids to council for an award of contracts sometime in the March, April timeframe. We'd also look at hosting another neighborhood meeting in May of the year, May or June, to bring residents back up to speed before construction started. And then construction would begin in June of the year and wrap up sometime in October or November of 2022. The assessment hearing, similar to the way we've done it the last couple of years now, we're looking at holding that in September of the year. And that will be the meeting at which residents could address the council in regards to these special assessments. That would also be the meeting at which they could object to their assessment or apply for a deferral to their assessment. With that, staff is recommending approval of the resolution, accepting feasibility study, authorizing preparation of plans and specifications, and calling for a public hearing for the Cope Avenue improvements, City Project 21-06. And with that, staff is available for questions.
Thank you for that presentation. It's nice to look forward to street projects and getting more of our streets done. You know, in the past, we've sometimes done 3 projects. Tonight, we're talking about 2 of them. Are we only doing 2 projects this summer?
Good question, Mayor. There is actually a 3rd project that we'll be bringing to the next council meeting in February. That will be the McMenemy Street improvements.
Okay.
That is McMenemy Street from County B down to Larpenter Avenue. And then there's also a short segment of Parkway Drive that is more of a utility replacement in coordination with Ramsey County, and that will be coming later in the year as well.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it. Let's see if the council has any questions. Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. John, I really appreciate the report, and I don't always read from cover to cover the feasibility report, but on this, what I call now excuse for a road, I had to read the whole thing. I'm sure there was not one person who was along the stretches going, hallelujah. I'd just like to ask, well, sort of point something out, then ask a question. On page 254 of our packet, where you talk about the subgrade soil characteristics, groundwater was observed in 12 of the 26 borings with effective depths ranging from 5 feet to 11.5 feet below the ground surface. Okay, that might explain the overall condition of this road. I think in prehistoric times, this entire road was underwater. And I notice it says where groundwater levels are high, additional measures for drainage and construction must be taken into consideration. Are those all in this proposed plan at this moment?
Councilmember Juniman, yes, those costs for that were included in there. And you're right, I'm impressed that you read that detailed portion of the report. Thank you. Yeah, so we would look at installing additional measures in those areas of high groundwater, such as drain tile, to remove the groundwater from underneath the street pavement section.
And I can appreciate the part where you say if necessary, you'll have to haul the dirt away and bring a new one, because in 2006, when you did my neighborhood, there was a lot of that. I learned a lot by having it done in my neighborhood, but this street has been begging for this for so long. I think it's wonderful, but thank you for answering my questions. And I don't think anybody who sees the pictures think it doesn't need to be done. Unless we're going back to just everybody walking. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Knutson. Councilmember Knutson. If you're talking, you're on mute. We'll come back to him. Councilmember Caves.
Yes, just one question, John. What are the plans from English to Birmingham? Because you have residential, but you have quite a bit of commercial there.
Thank you, Councilmember Cave. Yeah, that's a good point. I did skip over that section. We are not proposing any changes to the street layout in that region. And that was mainly due to input we received at that first neighborhood meeting from the commercial businesses along that corridor.
Okay.
They required that width of street in order to operate their businesses, in order to get their semi trucks in and out of there on a daily basis. So we did not propose any street narrowing in that section to ensure those businesses can continue to operate.
Okay, so then a second question, how come down at the other end, like with McDonald's and maybe that's it, because I'm sure they have semis, and then that strip mall at the end, why don't they want a big wider street down there? Or did they just not come to the meeting?
Good question. So that portion of Cope Avenue is going to be 44 feet in width. So it is already wider than that portion at the far west end down by English Street. That portion is currently 37 feet wide.
Okay. Okay. So they're fine down there. Okay. Thank you.
Yep,
No more questions.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
I'm always excited when we can do some street improvement projects. I think, Maplewood residents, we all, our quality of life improves when we do these improvements. I guess my one question would be is, I thought I heard something about there was a desire to improve lighting, and I was wondering if the plan includes improving any of the lighting.
Yes, thank you, Council Member. That the lighting is going to be looked at as part of the design process. And what we do during the design is we partner up with Excel Energy, and we analyze all the intersections along the corridor and make sure that we have adequate lighting at them. Essentially, our policy calls for street lights at intersections, major bends in the road, or anywhere where it could be a traffic safety concern to not have that area lit. So we're going to work with Excel Energy as part of the design phase to install lights where needed.
Any other questions, council member?
No, thank you.
Okay, let's go back to Councilmember Knutson.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. This project has got a lot of stuff in it, and I know the estimate is 3.9. Is there any situations right now with price levels going up so high that would suggest that the bids would come in significantly higher, or is that condition already expected?
That's a good question, Council Member. As part of the feasibility study and establishing that initial cost estimate, we did reach out to some of the frequent flyer contractors that bid on projects in Maplewood, and we asked them in general what kind of increase in prices we should factor in as we're budgeting for these projects. And they did indicate for certain items to push that up at least 8%. So we did include include inflation to the extent possible, but you're right, it's kind of a questionable time right now with where prices are going to go. But we did, to the extent possible, include inflationary prices with this cost estimate.
Thank you. Next idea is, when you talk about narrowing the streets and all that, you mentioned traffic calming, which means, taking care of the idiots that drive recklessly. But is that something that is going to be part of every project we look at relative to what is the right size, shape, and configuration for roadways?
Councilmember, yes, we do. With all of our projects, we look at applying our Living Streets policy goals. We look at opportunities for reducing street widths, providing traffic calming, reducing impervious surfaces, providing that pedestrian and bicyclist connections, as well as improving the tree canopy in the city. So we are going to look at that with all projects moving forward.
Well, I appreciate it, because about 20 some years ago, I was on the group that studied Keller Parkway when we decided we wanted walking and biking lanes. And man, oh man, when it talked about saving trees and all that, it went on and on and on, but it was the right thing to do. And it really does calm the traffic when the lanes are a little bit narrower. So just wanted to give you that support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation, and council members, great questions. All right, we have a recommended action in front of us. Would someone like to make the motion?
I move to approve the resolution accepting the feasibility report, authorizing the preparation of plans and specifications, and calling for a public hearing at 7 p.m. on February 14th, 2022 for the Culp Avenue Improvement City Project 21-06.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave. The motion to approve a resolution accepting the feasibility report, authorizing the preparation of plans and specifications, and calling for a public hearing at 7 p.m. on February 14th for the Culp Avenue Improvement City Project 21-06. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's go to a vote. Councilmember Juniman.
Aye, and you know why you can use narrower streets? You won't have to avoid the potholes anymore.
Very true. Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Cave.
Aye.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. I'm looking forward to that street being redone. The motion passes. Let's move on to our last street project. This is concerning the Jarvis area pavement rehabilitation. Mr. Love, do you want to set this up, or is it Mr. Jarosh?
Yes, Mayor and Council. So, yes, again, we have John Jarosh here that's going to be doing the presentation, and I'll let him take it from there.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Steve. Thanks, Mayor, Council. The second project I'm here to talk to you about tonight is the Jarvis Area Pavement Rehabilitation, City Project 21-07. The streets included in this project are shown on the right-hand side of the screen, and they include Jarvis Avenue from Barclay Street over to White Bear Avenue, 11th Avenue from White Bear Avenue over to Ariel Street, Barclay Street from Jarvis Avenue up to the cul-de-sac, Sexton Avenue from Barclay Street over to Hazelwood, Flandreau Street from Jarvis Avenue up to the cul-de-sac, Jarvis Court from Jarvis Avenue to the cul-de-sac, and then Ariel Street from County Road C down to the cul-de-sac just north of Highway 36. And it is worth noting that Ariel Street is a border street with the city of North St. Paul. The city staff have been coordinating with North St. Paul throughout this feasibility process so that we're all on the same page. And if this project did continue and move forward, the city would bring forward an agreement for approval in coordination with North St. Paul before awarding a construction contract. These area streets total just under 2.5 miles in length. They have an average pavement condition index rating of 33 out of 100. So again, this pavement has deteriorated where it's no longer cost effective to patch or maintain. This project, however, the majority of the concrete curb and gutter is in good condition, with just some spot locations that have deteriorated. The Maplewood owned utilities are generally in good condition. So the sanitary sewer and storm sewer systems are generally in good condition with only some minor repairs needed. But North St. Paul, as well as St. Paul Regional Water Service, have identified some sections of that cast iron water main that need to be replaced. Residents have been communicated with in a number of ways. We sent out that informational packet back in November of last year with a project location map, a frequently asked questions brochure, information on their assessments, as well as an invitation to that first neighborhood meeting. And that meeting was held on November 23rd of last year. Again, we held a presentation and followed that up with a question and answer session. And areas of discussion at this one included the scope of the project, the timeline of the project, cost and funding sources, general information of assessments, as well as how we continue to communicate with the residents throughout the project. Some of the things that the residents in this area brought up were concerns with property access, again, during construction, the current poor condition of the pavement, the general construction process, and the assessments. And with this project, the majority of the residents in attendance were in favor of the proposed improvements. And again, additional neighborhood meetings would be scheduled if this project moves forward. So with this project, we're also looking at reclaiming or grinding up the existing street pavements to create that new stable road base. On top of that, we'd install at least 2 new layers of asphalt pavement. We do spot curb replacement of only those deteriorated sections of concrete curb and gutter on this project. Make some minor repairs to the storm sewer system and adjust the utility castings, the storm sewer manhole lids and the sanitary manhole lids, adjust those up to the new pavement elevation. And then we'd also look at replacing the cast iron water main on sections of the project as determined by North St. Paul and St. Paul Regional Water. We're also looking at, as part of this process, installing a sidewalk on the north side of 11th Avenue. That would be from White Bear Avenue over to Ariel Street. Right now, there's kind of a dirt path that people have walked into the grass on that north side. We're going to at least look at that as part of this feasibility process to see if that can be installed with the project. Overall, this project is estimated to cost just over $4,113,000. Again, this project is slightly over that CIP amount, and those additional costs were due to the additional water main replacement that weren't anticipated during the CIP planning process. And those additional water main costs would be covered by both St. Paul Regional Water Service as well as the City of North St. Paul. The other project funding sources include the Street Revitalization Fund, assessments to the benefiting properties, the various utility funds, as well as the general obligation improvement bonds. So looking at the schedule, council is here tonight to receive the feasibility study and order a public hearing. If that moves forward, we look at holding that second neighborhood meeting the week of February 7th to bring residents back up to speed on the project so that they're well informed before the public hearing. And then we look at holding that public hearing on February 14th. And again, that will be the meeting at which residents can provide input on the proposed project. And after taking in all that input, council would again vote on the project and decide whether or not to order the improvements. If we move forward, we would design plans through February and into early March, send those plans out for bid, and look at bringing those bids to council for award of a contract in the March to April timeframe. We'd also look at holding another neighborhood meeting before construction starts to bring residents back up to speed and make sure they fully understand how the project will work. And we look at constructing the project from June to October of the year. And then again, we'd hold that assessment hearing in September, and that will be the meeting at which residents can directly voice their opinions to council in regards to their assessment. And that will be the meeting at which the council will levy the assessments after taking in that input. And with that, staff is recommending approval of the attached resolution, accepting the feasibility study, authorizing the preparations of plans and specs, and calling for a public hearing for the Jarvis Area Street Improvements City Project 21-07. And staff is available for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Councilmember Juniman, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mayor. Great job, John. Thank you. Could you explain why this one includes in the funding the Street Revitalization Fund?
Mr. Jarosh?
Good question. So maybe that might be a question for Mr. Love or Ms. Paulseth on exactly why this one included that. But this was identified as a pavement rehabilitation project, and that was what the Street Revitalization Fund was initially established for, was this type of improvement project.
Yeah,
and that's why it was utilized for this project.
That's why I brought it up, so that we can, call attention to the fact that that fund actually does do a great deal to help us do more streets and the ones that are in great need. So that's really why I asked the question. So I have a question, well, I already knew the answer, but this was a great technique that came to be. And then again, deep into your report, something's wrong with me. I'm reading all these reports from start to finish now. But in these roads that are in such bad shape, I think people need to realize that it goes way, 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 way back, and that being able to keep them in even drivable shape has been a minor miracle. And when you read this one and you read about the subsurface, the bituminous ranges from 3 to 13.5 inches thickness already then. And then again, the groundwater is phenomenal in that area. So you wonder how the street, because it was never constructed as a real street, could have survived this long. And when you look at the sub-watershed runoff maps, it's like no wonder there's so much water in the area. And now we have such better techniques and technology for directing it. And so the water quality is better and the street lasts longer. And aren't we lucky to be living now? I really appreciate the details of this project. These really bad streets, it's actually, I hate to say it, but it's almost entertaining to see, why they are the way they are. Thank you. And thanks for cooperating with North St. Paul again. This happens on projects quite often.
Thank you for those questions. Councilmember Knutson.
Hard to follow, Councilman Juniman. I'm good.
Okay, Councilmember Cave.
Same thing as Bill. I was going to say the same thing, Kathy. No, great job, John, and I really appreciate you working so well with North St. Paul as usual. So thank you. No more questions. No questions.
And Councilmember Villavicencio.
I don't have any other questions. I think this looks great.
Thank you very much. And I'd just like to say thank you for working with St. Paul Regional Water as well, because when we identify these streets that need work, by working with North St. Paul and St. Paul Regional Water, and sometimes it's got to be Excel. I mean, it's a whole variety of different groups that you're going to work with. What that means for our residents and our businesses is that we only dig up the street once. We take care of everything that needs to be done with that street. And that just makes such great business sense. And it interferes, you know, we've got road construction season, but by only doing it one time, we get it done right, and we don't have to go back again. So I think that that is a really great way for our Public Works Department to be working on these streets. So thank you for that.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. Since you brought that up, because I was going to bring it up, it wasn't always that way. And it was, I know that because we're the last of the poster children for not doing it that way. In 2006, St. Paul Regional Water didn't do the massive pipe replacement that I do now. And our street was put in and finished in October, actually early November. And we had to dig up in two different places, 1.5 block of our house, one in February, one in June of the following year, because they hadn't replaced the pipes. So many thanks to our public works people working with them to finally get them to see the wisdom of doing it this way.
Yeah, it works out much better this way.
It's in better business sense for them too. They just didn't know it until we pointed it out to them.
Okay, council members, is there a motion?
Of course. I move to approve the resolution accepting the feasibility report, authorizing the preparation of plans and specifications, and calling for a public hearing at 7 p.m. on February 14th, 2022 for the Jarvis Area Pavement Rehabilitation City Project 21-07.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave. The motion to approve a resolution accepting the feasibility report, authorizing the preparation of plans and specifications, and calling for a public hearing at 7 p.m. on February 14th, 2022 for the Jarvis Area Pavement Rehabilitation City Project 21-07. Any further discussion? Then let's vote. Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Cave.
Aye.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. We have concluded our agenda. Before we get to our adjournment, I wanted to see if council members had anything else that they'd like to add. Since we are, temporarily doing our meetings virtually, I think it gives a nice opportunity for everyone for anything else that you'd like to add at the end of the council meeting, because we are using this. While it's wonderful that we have that ability, it's great that staff maintains this for us so that we can get the important work done of the city. But it is kind of still artificial. I'd much rather be in person with all of you. So Councilmember Juniman, is there anything you'd like to add to wrap up?
Well, thank you, Mayor. And every cloud is a silver lining. So if residents are looking for a silver lining in this, they don't have to look at us when we have these meetings. They can just listen to it. So there's a plus to everything.
That's true.
And I know you think this, that it's more stilted and everything, but I think you do a really good job. And I think we got back into the swing again. And I'm amazed at how much we can accomplish. And we hear just as much information from staff. They do a wonderful job of keeping us up to speed and what we need to see. And it's amazing. And even though streets aren't all that exciting if you think about it, it was exciting tonight to have those two projects of those two horrible roads. Finally going to be decent passageways again. That's exciting. And I've been around long enough to remember the time when this was kind of starting to use a calendar for streets. And, you know, before that, it was like haphazard sort of. And because it was, the streets had all developed at a different rate, and because we're old enough that some were cow paths longer than others. So thanks to our engineering and public works staffs for this business, for sure. And I agree with you, Mayor. Thanks to the IT people in particular who keep us able to do this from the comfort of our homes on a cold night. I agree with you. And I think it's truly amazing how much we can accomplish. And I actually think some of this, at least for myself, I'm actually a better listener when I'm at home than when I'm in the room. And maybe that's simply because people talk about this at work too. There are fewer distractions if you're not with the people. So, you know, it has its pluses and its minuses. So thanks to everybody for another good meeting tonight. And our unofficial Maplewood mascot, my dog, has spent another night lying on his side. Apparently our voices lull him to sleep.
Thank you. Councilmember Knudsen.
I just, our agenda tonight, especially around Ms. Fleming's issues, it seems to me that, you know, we need to get involved and do what we can to help on civility, and just respect for each other and respect for, identified law. And so I like that opportunity to get involved and again, just discuss real problems with neighborhoods. So I appreciate that conversation.
Thank you. Councilmember Cave.
And on bills, I really appreciate the conversation also. I like that we're moving forward and fast and we aren't taking, too much time on it. I agree, the public safety, the loss of respect for people, for adults and public safety and everything, it has to come from the home. It's parents out there. It's what we teach our kids and it all starts at home. So hopefully we can get something here at Emma's place. Stay warm, everybody, and stay safe.
Thank you. Councilmember Villavicencio.
Well, I appreciate being on Zoom for these meetings right now, seeing how cold it is. So that is the silver lining for sure on my end. I'll be happy when these cold days are gone for sure. But I do appreciate all the work that we do, and I'm thankful for the things that we can accomplish together. So thank you all, and we'll see each other on the next meeting.
All right. Thank you, fellow council members. Thank you, staff. Just in looking at our agenda, we talked about our ARPA funds, figuring out to do with the surplus. We made a resolution declaring a climate emergency. We wound up buying a new fire truck and some new police vehicles, very important. And I'm only hitting some of the highlights. We had, I think, a very good discussion about what's happening in our community, and I think we've got a good way to resolve it. I will be sending out that email invitation for February 28th. And we are looking forward and getting 2 big street projects taken care of. So council members, thank you for your discussion tonight. Thank you for your commitment to our city. It is much appreciated. And as always, thank you, staff. Everyone stay warm. It's going to be bitterly cold in the morning. So stay safe out there. And with that, we are adjourned. Good night, council members. Good night, staff.
Good night, all.
Good night.